Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Advisory Board Member Donald J. Trump for President, Natalie Harp.
Good afternoon, everybody. Look at all those warriors out there for God and country. Oh my goodness, I mean, every 4 years we find ourselves in the midst of yet another fight for faith and freedom, don't we? But it's like this year it's different. We're no longer fighting, different political parties or for different political candidates. It's our fight now. It's a direct fight between us and an ideological cabal. A cabal so powerful that virtually every Democrat running for president synchronized the end of their campaigns to create the illusion of a socialist losing to a so-called moderate in the primaries, so they could mask their real agenda in the general. We've never lived, let alone could dream up such a story. But C.S. Lewis did. It's all in The Last Battle, the final book of his best-selling series, The Chronicles of Narnia, in which the country's domestic and foreign adversaries devise a devilish plan to keep a donkey disguised as the great lion Aslan himself, hidden away in a barn, trotting him out ever so often, just to enforce the lie that he's the same Aslan who'd run their country once before. Well, in actuality, they are the ones running it, selling it out until it is no more. Narnia's fiction has become America's reality. We may not have a donkey in a barn, but we do have Joe Biden in a basement. And we, too, are faced with those same dark forces, this time of the fake news, the deep state, and the Democrat Party, who have formed an unholy alliance to take over our country and take back the power President Trump's been returning to the people. Socialism is so much bigger than redistributing wealth from the rich to the poor. It's about redistributing health from Americans to illegal immigrants, and from the most vulnerable to the most viable. That's why it's called socialized medicine, and why this could be the last vote on health care. For just as they'd abolish the police, the Democrats would abolish the private health industry, kicking 180 million of us off our private health plans and onto government-run, government-controlled health care. Maybe it'd be one thing, if the Democrats were actual geniuses at running health care, but they couldn't even make their Affordable Care Act affordable. Or keep their promise we could keep our doctors and our plans. They couldn't even run the Obamacare website, and they couldn't even take care of our veterans. And Joe Biden's own chief of staff, he said it was pure luck that swine flu wasn't more deadly, or the stories of the 61 million of us infected by it might have ended quite differently. If Obamacare was the lie of the year, then socialized medicine, it's the lie of the century. Sure, we'd all have health care, but what's the point of having health care if you can't ever see a doctor? When waiting 18 weeks for treatment isn't just normal, it's a baseline that the UK hasn't reached in years. What's worse, people actually living under the premise of health care as a human right, they don't have the same rights as we do. In the UK, the National Health Service, they actually officially limit how much they're willing to spend to what they call postpone a death, £30,000, or about 38,000 US dollars, for each full year of quality life provided to the patient. Is that really all 1 year of my life is worth as a person fighting cancer? I don't know if the Democrats have actually arrived at a formula of how they'd exactly determine how much each of us are worth, but I do know that people with pre-existing conditions would pay the price. It's already happening in California. For while my so-called representatives are giving free health care to illegal immigrants, they're telling people like me we're a burden to our families and to our country, and that by choosing to die early, to what they call die with dignity, we would actually be saving the lives of others by saving resources for them, rather than wasting them on a lost cause like ourselves. This is the callous truth of socialized medicine. The radical left doesn't actually believe that healthcare is a human right, but a government's right to make life and death decisions for you. You know, earlier this year, when we all went through this coronavirus pandemic, countries like Italy, they actually began rationing care away from the elderly to those they considered had the best chance or best hope of life. But not America. For while not all pre-existing conditions are created equal, every life is. And thanks to this president's life-saving leadership, it's unbelievable. No, the media never covers this. We launched the largest industrial mobilization since World War II, manufacturing thousands of ventilators. So guess what? Not one American who needed a ventilator didn't get a ventilator. And that's all thanks to Donald Trump. And we even made more to share with Italy and other countries. And while the rest of the world ran into shortages in testing, it was America that accelerated innovations as President Trump streamlined the FDA to work seamlessly with the private sector to expedite new and even better tests. And you probably saw this week, we passed 100 million tests, exponentially more than any other country. Because Donald Trump is not like Barack Obama or Joe Biden. Because if you remember, during H1N1, they actually slowed down testing because they cared more what would help them politically than what would help people personally. Until this year, until this president, we've never seen medical innovation reach such record heights or in such record time. But that's because we've never had a right to try president before, whose all of America approach, it's working so well to get others well, expediting new treatments so people don't die waiting for them to be approved. And thanks to President Trump's life-saving leadership, our mortality rate is down 85% since April. And with Operation Warp Speed, the president doesn't even want to wait 24 hours. He's already mobilizing the military, so we'll have 100 million vaccines ready to be distributed to, guess who first? The elderly and those most susceptible to people with pre-existing conditions. You know, for the first time in history, we've had 188 countries face the exact enemy, but only one country is decidedly winning the fight against the China virus. And guess what? It isn't a country with socialized medicine. It's a country with the most pro-life president in history. He believes that life is from conception to natural death, and that one life lost is too many. And you know what? When he says it, he means it. Because who were among the first people with pre-existing conditions our president fought to protect? The terminally ill. You know, we haven't found ourselves on anyone's short list before, let alone the President of the United States. For decades, career politicians like Joe Biden, they saw people like me as a political liability, not a life worth saving. But to Donald Trump, protecting people with pre-existing conditions is so much more than a clause you take out and campaign on. It's a cause you take up and fight, because fighting for your life is what Donald Trump fights for too. That's why Joe Biden, he can go around all the time and say, I will protect people with pre-existing conditions. But you know what? He hasn't. He didn't pass the right to try. He didn't pass VA accountability or choice. He didn't do anything for people waiting on donor lists for kidney transplants. President Trump got that done. And he did in 47 months what Joe Biden couldn't do in 47 years. Last week, the president released his America First healthcare plan. And when he did, he actually read from a list of some of the things he's gotten done on healthcare. So you know what? I'd like to do the same. And when I do, I want you to ask yourself, after being in government for 47 years, or no, it was 180 years, wasn't it? Why didn't Joe Biden get it done? So thanks to Donald Trump, prescription drug prices have now reached a 52-year low. That's never happened before in history, and all the time Joe Biden was in government, and they're going to drop even lower now with the favored nations clause that's coming out. The president also signed 4 executive orders to lower the cost of prescription drug prices. And they're going to drop again, even lower with price transparency, and that's going to go into effect January 1st. So you better get out and vote Trump so Joe Biden doesn't get the credit for it. He's also approved a record number of generic drugs, saving us approximately $2.6 billion in just 18 months. He's also banned pharmacy gag clauses and required hospitals to post standard prices online. He repealed the individual mandate, all while expanding association health plans and reimbursement arrangements. He's committed to finding a cure for sickle cell disease by investing in gene therapy. He saved countless lives from the opioid epidemic by expanding access to medication-assisted treatments, as well as the life-saving naloxone, and it's working. Have you seen? Opioid prescriptions are down 35% since the president took office in January 2017, and they're going to go down even lower. He also launched findtreatment.gov to assist those with substance abuse disorders to find the treatment they need. He took executive action to prevent veteran suicides. He launched the 24-hour veteran hotline. Do you remember that promise on the campaign trail? Well, he actually delivered on that. And the VA approval rating's now at a record 91% because 9,000 VA officials have heard, "You're fired." Can you believe all these things he's gotten done? I mean, you need like a whole list of it. It's so much. The media never covers this, but it shows everything he's done. He's expanded access to telehealth, especially in rural and underserved areas. He also announced he's sending prescription drug discounts to over 33 million seniors, all while modernizing and strengthening Medicare with more options, more benefits, and substantially lower premiums. And that's just a little bit. He's just getting started. That's what the Democrats, they just don't understand it. Protecting people with pre-existing conditions, it's so much more than rhetoric. It's about results. It's about lowering the cost of prescription drugs, no matter how many millions Big Pharma is spending trying to stop you. It's about putting an end to surprise medical billing and stopping our reliance on China and bringing our drug production home. It's about finding cures to childhood cancers and ending the HIV/AIDS epidemic. You know, the president promised we would end that in 10 years. We only have 6 more years to go on that. And it's about providing better care, more choice, and lower costs. It's about making America great again, not remaking it into a socialist country with socialized medicine. You know, for too long, people of faith have stood on the sidelines instead of on the front lines of politics, choosing to engage in whatever fights we deem faith-based enough, whether it's abortion or the Supreme Court. But 2020 isn't about picking an issue. It's about choosing a side. For every issue on the ballot will be off the ballot forever if the radical left were to win in November. They've already said nothing's off the table. And if we've learned anything over the past 4 years, threats are the only kinds of promises the Democrats ever keep. This literally could be the last battle for our country. One fought not on the distant battlefields of distant lands, but right here at home in hearts and minds. We're in the fight of our lives because it's for our lives, our liberties. And if we fight this battle and every battle as if it were our last, so help us God, it never will be. C.S. Lewis understood this, that the great thing is to be found at one's post as a child of God, living every day as if it were our last, but planning as if the world might last 100 years. 4 years ago, Donald Trump said there might come a time when we'd grow tired of winning, because you can't win without a fight. And the fact is, people do grow tired of fighting, but not us. For those who fight for faith and freedom, we do not fight like a boxer beating the air. We run in such a way as to get the prize. And we don't just have an election to win, we have a country to save. So this November, let's send a message that's heard all the way from the White House to a basement in Delaware. We are not tired of winning. We will not tire of fighting. We will hold the line. We will keep the faith. We will keep America great and keep on winning, winning, winning.